Hi, everyone. I'm Kenny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. I'm here to share the speaker portion of our Connections Over Coffee. This is Connections After Hours gathering of the On Purpose Woman Global Community. Sofia Wren is speaking on why sensitive people may hate marketing. Sofia Wren helps sensitive people write for a book or a business so that they can serve a wider audience. Sophia has pursued a passion for publishing online and in books for over 20 years. For 10 years, she's helped entrepreneurs and writers find the clarity and confidence they need to share their work or message in a bigger way. Her motto is that there are people waiting for what you have to say. And she's going to be speaking again on why sensitive people may hate marketing. So Sophia, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. So excited. We just had some really great conversations going in the breakout rooms about why people don't like marketing. And I kind of suspected there were a lot of sensitive people that didn't like marketing for one reason or another. And it was great to kind of hear some of what people had to say. If anyone wants to leave me a little comment, if you didn't get to tell me what you don't like about marketing and you would like to share in the comment, feel free to. But for yourself, you might want to jot a note to kind of think about later, because these little areas that we don't like about marketing, if you are an entrepreneur or you have a personal brand or you have a book, anything that you want to share with the world more of, marketing is a part of our lives and our business. And even if you're super good at what you do, people have to find out about it. And I like to think that those little areas that you hate about marketing are almost like a pathway for us to become even better conscious leaders in the world, because it's information that can help us to discover something new. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're wrong. It doesn't mean that you need to change that necessarily, but it's something to pay attention to as just a fact, something you don't like. And I'm going to talk more about ways around that and talking more about being sensitive and why so many of us don't like marketing and things that I've found helpful. I've been running a business now for about 10 years, and that's about when I started learning about marketing, because I started as a writer 20 years ago. I don't know, I was like 12. It's more than 20 years ago now. I started a blog, and that's when I started to write and publish online. And then I think 10 years went by and I kind of looked up and realized, oh, wow, a lot of people are coming to my website, but then they just disappear. Maybe I should do something about that. At one point, it was like 5,000 people were coming to my website, every day or week or something, or month, I don't know. But it was just like, I should probably do something with these people. I don't know. That was the beginning of me starting to think maybe marketing is something I should learn more about. And I found it very difficult to start to do anything with. And only recently, after all these years and years of trying to help other people with their marketing too, and learning about copywriting and all these things, trying to help other people make their websites and write their books and things like that, I finally figured out one piece of the puzzle. And so I'm really excited to share this with you. It's kind of been a recent realization. But something a lot of people are talking about these days is the term neurotypical and not being neurotypical. And as far as being sensitive, technically, if you're a highly sensitive person, you're not neurotypical. You're not like baseline average for the human brain, according to whoever measures these things. You're a little more sensitive. So that could be some way to describe some sensitive people. But it turns out, especially for women, the word sensitive can cover all kinds of different ways our brains can be, including ADHD, autism spectrum, synesthesia, sensory processing disorder, all kinds of different things that a lot of women never even get diagnosed with. And even if you're not really extreme, but there's like a little smidge of a different chemical thing going on in your brain and your nervous system, including even trauma, because trauma can create a similar symptom as ADHD because of the way it works. There's just different things that can be a part of the way your brain is. And so if you think about it like that maybe being sensitive isn't a personality trait or defect or softness or something that you need to toughen up. Maybe it's actually something biological. Maybe it's actually something that you have no control over at all. And maybe that's why what somebody else feels really comfortable doing to you is like oil and water. And when I started to think about that, it kind of made sense. So another fun fact I found out about, just using ADHD as an example, because like I said, you don't need to get diagnosed, but it's just interesting to learn about the human brain. Something that they started doing is not only are people now getting, regular ADHD medication, they started giving people a new medication for something they're calling rejection sensitivity dysphoria, which is basically that fear of rejection, like feeling a little bit rejected, like when someone's looking away when you're trying to talk to them, when somebody doesn't seem interested in what you're trying to tell them about. Things like that can spike your nervous system and cause you physical pain of like, oh my God, my heart just like, exploded because they don't want my thing, And so having that disappointment of, okay, this person's not interested in what I am here to share with them or sell them or coming from my heart to tell them about, and even the thought of it possibly being a no can cause your nervous system to kind of freak out. And so that's just an example of like, people are actually taking like heart medication, like to slow their blood pressure down, because no one wants to have that experience. And for some people who are more sensitive, it can actually cause you like a physical, like, oh my God. And no wonder you don't want to do that, because it's like a survival instinct, right? So once I found that out, I'm like, okay, I can totally forgive myself for not liking marketing, because it's just that part of me that's like, I really don't want to have that little mini heart attack. I just want to be chill. I just want to be relaxed. I just want to walk in the woods. And we had some great sharing about, especially with technology, with social media, we've been hearing about like how that's pressing all these little dopamine receptors and doing things to our brain. And some people don't want to deal with that. We've got people who are maybe setting some negative examples in our lives, coming after us for sales when we're not interested, or we never gave them our email, and feeling like, ooh, why is this happening? And of course, you don't want to be doing the same thing as someone who's bothering you. So that could cause you to kind of overcorrect and think, I don't want to do that marketing like that. So being sensitive, there's so many reasons to be a little bit unsure about how to go about marketing, and maybe even just not fully motivated or fully excited. Even if it's something you practice and you're used to doing, it just might not be something that really lights you up, and that's okay. And I think that's the biggest part of my first part of this talk is let it be okay if you don't like it, because it might not even be personal that you don't like it. It's not like a personality trait thing. It can just be the way you're built and the way you've been doing it haven't been meshing super well. So, and just knowing that can help you find a better way to do it. And everyone gave me kind of different words about like what it is that you don't like about marketing. But if I just kind of use the word like rejection, I'm kind of just talking about like when it doesn't work, when it doesn't feel good. So excuse me for using a broad way to describe all of the different things. It could be not liking it, not wanting to do social media, feeling like this is going to be too much work, just not being sure how to do it, or feeling like people are going to say no. Any of those things, I might just kind of summarize it as like rejection or something like that. And that's just my words. So excuse it if it's not your language, and just replace whatever came up for you there, because of course we're all different. And if you don't have any problem with marketing, maybe this will give you some thoughts about how some people different from you might be experiencing it. And it's always good to know how other people are working, right? Because we're all so different. We're all just on this planet trying to figure out how to exist. So anyway, okay, so just to recap, we're all taking an emotional risk when we put ourselves out there, and it can even cause us physical discomfort. And that's one of the reasons why being sensitive in marketing is hard. But the thing is that you're probably still wanting to do it because there's something you're passionate about. If you weren't passionate about it, you probably wouldn't be here with us in a wonderful group or watching this talk. You probably would have just stopped doing anything related to any of this a long time ago. And it's the fact that you're passionate that means you always come back to this, even if there's some difficulty. So that is like the blessing of being sensitive for you, is that you know that what you're going to do is going to make a difference for someone. You know that somebody needs this. You know it's important. And thus, you're going to continue to go even when it's difficult. But give yourself a flexibility that you don't need to do it the way someone else is doing it. You don't need to copy people. You don't need someone to tell you that you have to do it one way or you're failing, because they could be built differently than you. And there's more than one way to do this. Okay, so the second thing I want to say about marketing itself is something that I see with sensitive people is that sometimes we kind of go halfway in, but like kind of like need to rejigger a few things to really make the marketing work. And so just at its most basic level, marketing, I think, one of the biggest things, and excuse me if you hear noises, it's my fiance who's going to the pool, I think. Have fun. But one of the big things is that, it's kind of difficult to market sometimes, because if you're really passionate about something and you know a lot about it, you're thinking about it in one place. But if somebody is like way beginner, doesn't know anything about what you're doing and doesn't quite understand how it's going to help them yet, they're in like a different brain space, and you need to create a bridge between the two places. And it's hard because it's kind of like, it can feel kind of like not being yourself. It can, because you're basically trying to learn someone else's language to speak to them where they are, and kind of step out of your shoes just a tiny bit. And you kind of want to get that balance of, I'm being authentic, I'm sharing myself and my soul and bringing in the people who are going to resonate with that. But they understand me because I'm speaking their language. And then they kind of think I'm like this psychic magical witch that just knows them and what they need. And like, they want that person. They want to hire that person. They want to like, follow everything you have to say. And suddenly like this magical switch is flipped where it's like, they need you, they know they need you, and they're lining up to buy from you. And then you might not even need to market as much because you got like all these people. And so this is something I've kind of been tweaking over the last 10 years. It can take time to kind of tweak. You can evolve. You can continue to need to evolve your marketing. But this year I got a full group of people from my writing group that I had for the summer. And it was like 8 people, 9 people. And that was such a big accomplishment for me. And it's something that like the biggest group I've ever had as a paid group in my business. So I did that because I kept tweaking the marketing. I kept tweaking the marketing until it felt right, until it was pinging off people and they were really into it. So like, don't be afraid to change the way you are explaining something and telling people about it so that they get it. And that's the most important thing, because you can have all the skills in the world, but if someone doesn't understand how you're going to help them, then they won't recognize it as their next thing they need to invest in, including their time, even if it's a free thing. Time is money. So what is the one thing I want you to remember is what I call the shovel analogy, because a lot of people like to talk about their shovels. And shovels aren't very interesting. You can go to a hardware store, you can buy them for a couple bucks. We all have shovels. But what can you do with a shovel? Well, you could dig up some buried treasure. So we kind of start leading that like, hey, like I'm an expert in this area. I'm really good at using a shovel. I know how to use a shovel. Please hire me and I'll come bring my shovel to you. And what you really should be telling people about is the buried treasure that only you know how to get down to, exactly where it is, how much to dig, and you know what a difference in their life it's going to be. And usually it's different from whatever you've learned from practitioners, whatever your real skill set is. It's about the benefit for the person that you're talking to and how their life is going to be better. And it can be very specific to that person And that's where a lot of people get a little bit afraid to like make a big promise that something's going to help them and everything. But we were talking in the group about kind of like your values, like bringing your values in, you know, and you can look at the amazing feature members we had, and they had some really great marketing. And if you pay attention to what was really great about what they were saying, kind of gives you some really great illustrations. Like Mary was talking about how you only have one life to live. And if you got a book, you better get that story out, because somebody, you know, if you don't, then that person who you could transform their lives is not going to hear your story, you know, like that's the end benefit. She could just say that she helps people write books, but she spoke about something much deeper and much more transformational and amazing. And that's just an example. So pay attention to what other people are doing and how it rings to you, and think about who are the people that you really want to help and serve, and how can you talk about the treasure and not just your shovel, because they will care less about the shovel than you think. They just want the treasure. And don't hide, because we can get a little bit confused sometimes, and we can kind of beat around the bush when we are marketing. And I think that comes from that evolutionary like nervous system response that like comes from like really kind of being put on the spot. So it does help to write things down. I'm a big proponent of writing. It's what I'm all about, is telling people to write things down. So keep your notes, but don't be afraid to change them, and find that bridge between you and who you're talking to, so that they know what you're all about and what you can do to help them. And then they will say yes a lot more often. Okay, so the third thing I want to talk about is reframing marketing to forming relationships. So because we have like social media and the internet, and I mean, it's always been a part of my life, because I don't know. I first got to go on the internet when I was like 7 or 8 or something. So I've kind of always grown up with it, but I'm sure, you know, it's not all of life, you know, we all know this, right? But I think that it's kind of, at least for me, it feels like it's become such a big influence in society that we can forget that like all of life isn't being on this stage for everyone to see you. And that's kind of what the internet and going viral is. It's sort of this idea that I will be put in front of everyone, and everyone's going to see me, and everyone's going to know what I'm all about. And then I'm going to get popular, and I'm going to be successful, and then I'm going to make it, you know, like it's like having this huge speakerphone and you can talk to everyone. But what we're really here to do with marketing and things like that is to remember how important an individual person is. And the individual people that you're speaking to are really important. And I think from my experience of what has helped me in my business, personal communication has been more important in making sales and growing. And it's really important not to discount that. And there's so many people I've talked to who have said, wow, I'm really not doing well in my business right now. I guess I'm going to go put a bunch of money in ads. Or I don't know, I guess I'll just tell everyone about this thing. And I'm like, are you going to have any one-on-one conversations? Are you going to reach out to somebody and let them know, you know, ask them how they are and see if you guys can have a chat about what's new and see if they know someone you can help, you know? And people forget that like one-on-one conversations is really powerful, really, really powerful, because what it allows you to do is it allows you to listen so much more deeply. And when people hear the word marketing, I think they think of billboards and like, again, the speakerphone, and you got to go out and you got to go say a bunch of stuff. But I think that listening is a way to utilize being sensitive as a really powerful way to grow your business. Because when you listen, you're able to see, do they actually need what I have? If not, maybe there's someone else I know, or maybe we can just be there for each other and just connect. And like, that's nice. And maybe in 5 years from now, I'll be doing something else and I can help them with that, or they'll be doing something else and they can help me with that. And just remember that like, whatever you're doing right now, you're going to have such a more productive, valuable result from an interaction with a person if you have a relationship that lasts a long time. And they say that most businesses make the most money from recurring customers. And people respect recommendations from people that they trust and know. So even if that person says it to somebody else, that you're a great XYZ person to go to. They're going to listen to them because they have a relationship. And so although like social media and the internet and getting in front of a huge crowd seems like it would be such a game changer for a business, it's also very impatient, and it can be very superficial, because sometimes it takes a while for people to get to know you and get to know how you could help them, and that you know what you're talking about and things like that, that can lead to a sale. And so because I've been in business now 10 years, I can really see that. And I can see how relationships that I've built, not because I was trying to get anything, but just because I enjoyed being in a relationship with certain people, have led to sales now, like 10 years in. You know what I mean? And I was not going into it with any impatience. And I won't say that social media is bad, because that has helped me build a lot of relationships, I will say. But as far as sales, one-on-one for me is still big. So you can send someone a private message, get on the phone with them. You know, it's just, remember to always ask consent. You know, I recommend it because I just think people are more open to what they say yes to. So you can invite people like, hey, are you interested in hearing about this? If so, I can tell you more. You know, if you don't have time and it's people you talk to a lot, then yeah, maybe you can just send them a link. But I just think that people like to kind of opt in to information. They get very overwhelmed easily. And so they won't necessarily pay as much attention if you just blast everybody at once. So don't be afraid to like slow down and take some time to see how their kids are and other stuff. Because remember, if they're not interested in this thing, it's okay, because there'll be more things. And you want to keep that relationship and you want to put energy into it first. So that has been, it sounds simple, but again, there's really been so much good that has happened in my business because of this approach, more than anything else that I've tried. And there's a lot of different ways to market. And of course, you can find your own way. But another thing I wanted to share that works well for me as a sensitive person is when I'm having a conversation with someone about a service that is like not something that's like the same for everyone, like a class where everyone would pay the same amount or something like that. Maybe someone has a special project and they've asked me to help them with their website or on their book. And it's something that's like kind of off script for me. And we're discussing what would that look like and how much would it be? And I'm kind of on the spot. Something that I'll do is I'll just say, you know, hey, how about we just take a moment where like, I'm going to just breathe and I'm going to just kind of listen in. And I invite you to also just sort of listen in just silently for a moment or two. Like, would that be okay? Would just take that moment. I've never had a single person be like, that's weird, Sophia, I don't like this. Everyone has been like, we're going to take a moment just to, yeah, that sounds great. I want to do that too, because I'm also sensitive and like, yeah, that's fantastic. Let's do that. And most of the time they're just, it's like further confirmation for them that like, I get it. I get being sensitive. And so that's something that I saw someone else did, and I did that with them when I hired them like 10 years ago or a long time ago. And no one has ever taught me that process, but I just started to try it and it worked great. So I think maybe we could all start doing it, and maybe everything will be a little bit smoother, because again, it's about listening and part to the person you're talking to, but also to yourself too. And then that way you don't have to move too fast. You don't have to say yes to something that's not going to feel right. I was hearing that that's a fear around marketing, and I resonate with that too, like biting off more than you can chew. Like, what if like you get way too much work on your plate and then you're super tired, and better just not market at all, right? And so that's, if you kind of set that pace for yourself to like, we're going to go a little slower, we're going to be feeling into things. I'm going to have time to decide if this is like the client I want to take on, the job I want to take on. Not going to rush into it. Like, that makes it easier for you to assess and discern. And then you're going to be perfect, right? You're going to know what to do. And then also you can kind of slow down these conversations. I personally don't like to dance with objections. I don't like it when people do it to me, so I don't like to do it to other people. But whatever works for you. But I liked what I was talking to Mary, and Mary was saying, if somebody doesn't, if somebody knows if they're for me, I don't know if that's what you said, but it was kind of like someone knows if they're my person, and I'm not here for everyone. So I kind of, that's my attitude with like, if somebody's like not into working with me, it's like, okay, that's fine. You know, like we can still be friends. And I don't make it, yeah. So you have to find out what works for you and experiment. And I recommend, again, take notes, write things down, have little reviews of how things are going and jot some notes down. I'm really into writing. I like to help people to write for websites. That's like a thing that I've really been helping people with lately, getting a sales page up. They've been meaning to write, you know, maybe their website has been feeling just off, and try to rectify that so it feels like them and they can feel excited about sharing that with people. That's another reason why sometimes people don't share stuff. They just don't feel good about it. It's not like ready feeling. So I help people just sit down, let's do it. Let's get it in a way that sounds like you, and it's strategic for what you want to do in the world to help people. And then sometimes people feel really called to write a book to spread their message. So it just depends on what project you have. So I wanted to invite anybody who's interested, if you wanted to get to know me better and have a little chat, I'm going to give you a link where you can sign up to just talk to me for 30 minutes, and we can just talk about ourselves and who we are and whatever project you're working on, to get to know each other better. Like I said, coming from that place of building relationships, and maybe we can help each other in some way, create a win-win, recommend somebody we know, build community. That'd be cool. So I'm going to send you a link for that. And I also wanted to give you some optional homework if you're interested. That something that helps me connect to myself and my business is to write letters. So I'll either write a letter to myself to be like, hey, how are you really feeling? I'm going kind of fast. Like, what's going on for you around marketing or anything else? And I'll also write to my business and say, hey, business, I have this idea. What do you think? Should I market it like this? And I like to do that, to take a moment to imagine what I might say or what my business might say. And that helps me to find an authentic next step for me. And if they tell you to do something, even if it's going for a walk or doing something non-businessy, I recommend that you go do it and then see what happens next. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Sophia. Unmute yourself, everyone, so we can do our applause, and so Sophia can hear us. Applause for her.
Yay, Sophia! Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you, Sophia, for sharing really some great wisdom and truth with us today. And thank you to everyone else who's either watched this live or is watching the replay. If you'd like to join us for one of our 11 free Zoom gatherings a month, or an in-person in Richmond, Virginia, or Charlottesville, Virginia, comment below and I'll tell you how to do that. You can also go to www.opwgc.com and find out all about our community. Thanks for watching, everyone.